Welcome to the Great Distraction.
Welcome back, everyone. This is The Great Distraction, and today the topic of discussion is Cashless Society. My name is Ben. With me today are my co-hosts Joe,
Hey yo,
Thomas,
Aloha,
and Glenn.
hello.
If this is your first time listening, welcome. We thank you for joining us. The Great Distraction is a podcast that focuses on a vast and random range of topics, and we hope that each episode leaves you with, if nothing else, something to ponder. Every day, we are moving closer and closer, it seems, to a future in which we don't have to carry cash. It's in our iPhones with Apple Pay. It's in our Google phones with the NFC chip. It's on your watch with Apple Pay, or the other, I think Samsung has one too with the NFC chip as well. It's everywhere, man. It's credit cards. It's debit card, or I'm sorry, what are those, prepaid cards? It just seems every day we move more and more to a world that doesn't require physical paper currency as much. I mean, obviously there'll always be that's the question. Will there always be? That's what we're here to talk about today. And as we continue moving towards this future with no cash, a lot of questions come up as far as how the world will how we will proceed within the world, and how we will be confined or possibly condemned by the control that we relinquish when we relinquish the anonymity and the privacy that we get by spending our currency in cash that is untraceable, or with a currency that is untraceable. And that just opens up a whole can of worms when you start going down that path. I'm going to try and bring in some positives to it too, because I don't want it to be all negative. I think that to some degree there could be some benefits, but a lot of it is stuff that we kind of as a group we find kind of scary as far as what could happen to us as a society when we relinquish all that control to the banks, to the government, to whomever manages all this digital currency. And one of the first things I found, just as a random fact that I thought was really kind of interesting, was that, again, we always suggest you go out and check these facts for yourself. I found some articles online that seem to be from some reputable sources, but you never believe anything you read. Go out and figure it out yourself find out the truth for yourself if you want to. But these facts aren't that shocking or whatever. They're just kind of interesting. One of the facts I found was that France made it actually illegal to use cash, to pay for an item with cash that was over 1,000 euros, which is approximately, depends on what the currency is going for, but a little over $1,000 USD.
No way. That's already been instituted?
That's what I read.
Wow.
I read it from an article in 2014, I think is when that article was written. So, that apparently that's there. And the other thing I learned that was kind of an interesting fact, and there's a lot about Sweden. Sweden is kind of being watched worldwide because apparently they're leading. They're in the lead in the world of building a cashless society. They have implemented, working alongside government and banks, methods by which people can transfer money to each other. I believe they have an app or a program called Swish, if I remember correctly what it was called, and many other methodologies to go without cash. And one of the and maybe that's what we'll start this topic here. One of the interesting things I learned is that their homeless people, their homeless residents or whatever, even carry card readers that are handed out to them by an organization that supplies them
Square.
with them. Yeah. It's kind of like Square. It's not called Square, but they're
they get 2% on each transaction.
Wow.
Yes, and
if it was an American
crazy.
company, that would definitely happen.
Yeah, and they hand these things out to these guys, and they actually consider the homeless that are panhandling using these vendors. They're like a vendor on the street.
Got to get them on taxes, right?
So that's the thing, is that obviously they're being tracked by how much they bring in. This is not an anonymous digital currency.
Yeah.
This is just accepting a credit card.
You're not going to be the guy in Venice Beach anymore that walks around with $4,000 in cash because he just makes crazy money. When I lived in Venice, I used to ride my bike from my apartment in Venice and hang out on the beach on like weekends and stuff, and just randomly talk to people because that's how I am.
Yeah.
And I met quite a few homeless people that had quite a bit of money in their pocket all the time, and I'm like, some of them were on like disability, they got checks and stuff. It was all digital,
Yeah.
it was all direct deposit to their thing, and so they would use some of that, but then they would panhandle in cash. And the first thing when I think about the Cashless Society, one of the things I think about is because we live in Sacramento, and if you live in Sacramento, you know that homelessness is like one of the number one rampant discussions that we have every day.
Oh, yeah.
But giving people money, and you answered that kind of to me, because I was like, well, how would that transfer? Because there's going to be some human rights organization that's going to jump up and go, oh, well, we got to be able to give money to the people who...
Or government sponsored. So, okay, because you brought up Sacramento, one of the things that we have here, and I'm sure every urban city they're doing this, they're giving cell phones basically for free with free service to the homeless. Now, there's a couple of companies that they, have company logos or whatever that they have on these little pagoda stand, fruit stand looking things where they do this. And then there's a couple of buildings, but we don't really know who. I've never looked into who owns these companies. Is it some bleeding heart organization, or is it actually government funded?
Or some just rich brat that has another company that
somebody
makes money
who could
'cause
benefit.
his uncle's in the Congress.
Is it somebody who could benefit from tracking even the homeless?
Somebody can benefit from tracking everything.
That's right. So
it's information.
Along the same lines, if you start handing out card readers to all the homeless people, you can track how much they make.
How much they make and where they are when they made it.
That's right. And tax them later on, because you can turn that right over to the IRS and say, hey, this guy, we've got his, I'm thinking at least they're going to have email address, physical address. I mean, I don't know what they would use for a physical address, but they may ask for social. They may ask for phone number. I mean, they're going to have something on these
And as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to all the crap I have to deal with in a small business and being self-employed, they should have to give every ounce of information you can get, up to almost a damn urine sample.
Yeah.
Because I have to deal with so much crap being self-employed that it's unfreaking real. It'll discourage most people from doing it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's a lot to go through just to set up this podcast. I mean, there's all kinds of entities that want a lot of information from you in order to do that. Which, by the way, paying for that is all cashless.
Right. Credit card.
Yes, exactly. So that was the first thing, yes. And going along the homeless situation, going along that, there was a couple of other interesting facts I came across too that were more related to the U.S. First of all, some nomenclature. I read that they actually call the population of our society that does not use credit cards or banks or whatever the unbanked. So apparently those who are just dealing cash only, and typically, from what I was reading, typically this is poorer people. They're considered the unbanked. And in the U.S., apparently our country, and again, these facts, guys, go out and research them for yourself, but this is what I found. Apparently in our country, we've held steady for quite some time of approximately 8% of the U.S. being the unbanked. That doesn't sound like much, but that's millions of people. I mean, that's still a lot of
350 million people.
Yeah, that 8% of that is a lot. And then another interesting one I found was supposedly 63% of millennials do not have credit cards. They apparently don't like them. So that trend seems to be moving out. Now, again, if this is true. The other thing that they brought up as a possibility for that is that something happened. There was an act, and I'm sorry I didn't write it down. There was an act that came in 2009, which made it more difficult to get credit when you had no pre-established credit. So it may be that the millennials who are growing up and getting their credit, trying to get their first credit cards, are either getting astronomical APRs, which they are. 29.99% for a credit card is not unheard of anymore.
Absolutely not.
I've seen up to 35, or not personally, but I've heard of up to 35, and that's outrageous. Yeah. And then on top of that, they don't want to give them a limit. So maybe when they see a high limit, so maybe when people see this, millennials, whatever, younger people, see this, they're like, forget that, dude. You're raping me.
Well, I think another thing too, and what I see with millennials that I talk to about some things like this is that we have a generation of people who aren't trained so well to be a part of the system.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They've been sort of excluded. They have a harder time getting jobs, harder time doing everything, getting credit, buying houses. I mean, you're talking about someone growing up today, and all of a sudden the first house they're going to buy is $680,000.
If they buy anything at all.
If they can ever buy it, And so they're getting excluded from that. So hopefully this will be a ramification back to the system of a population of people that are like, hey, screw you. We're not going to let you have everything you want.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
And with those rising costs continuing and the difficulty to get approved for credit, I think that's breeding the mentality that I seem to be reading and hearing more about, wherein people are growing up with the idea that owning a home is a bad idea, period. It's just, I don't ever want to. That's a trap or
not
it's
a good financial
not
decision.
a good thing, right? So you have the people like that who don't want to own at all, further feeding that same movement.
It's most likely the same group of people, yeah.
Yeah.
So those people probably don't care about their credit scores.
Nope.
A lot of things like that. And they're being excluded from it anyway. So if you're going to be excluded for something, the natural thing is to rebel against it. Well, I can't be a part of that, so F that.
Sure. One of the comments, one of the articles said that spending cash may become a hipster type thing. This is something retro people do, and people who want, and then the next step after that is within society, it may come to the point where it's looked at as down upon, like, oh, what do you spend cash? Like what?
You touch dirty money.
Yeah, dirty. Yeah, and that's
because what's the saying? Every $20 bill has traces of cocaine on it in America.
Every $20 bill.
Every
But that's part of the stigma that they'll introduce to get you to adopt.
Yeah, it's kind of like the war on drugs.
Yeah, exactly.
Let
us explain to you why this is bad for you and why you shouldn't do it. Yeah.
Look at all the diseases we've been past. If we took cash out of our system, I'm writing the script for the commercial. If we take cash out of our system, folks, we'll remove half the diseases that we track.
Your
between each
babies
other.
will be healthier.
Yeah, there you go.
Who's gonna not be for that?
Well, grandma's definitely going to be for that.
And of course, it'll stop all those criminals from buying all that marijuana that supports terrorism.
Oh yeah.
So you'll directly hinder terrorist activity in
Just
your
say
country.
no to cash, Joe.
Yep. Yeah. So right off the
They'll have big cash turn-ins.
That's right. Surrender
Turn over your cash dollars for credits.
Yes, alongside your guns.
Wow.
So hurting the black market was definitely something that most of the articles I read did touch on. And
the illegal spending of cash? So buying drugs, anything, and I deal with it again. Being self-employed is like, if you make $1, the government wants 35 cents of that.
Yeah.
And they're going to do everything they can to figure out a system to be more, poignant on that accusation throughout
definitely.
time, especially through technology. And I feel like this is like the banks, because the banks are already in bed with the government anyway. So, this is just another little grab to like, you can't do anything.
Yeah, also there's a lot of businesses who, evade taxes. I mean, think of how many bars are cash-only bars.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, let me think of why they would be a cash-only bar. There's a lot of people who still do that. And like you said, teaming up.
Yeah, and then I think, and a lot of people I've known over the years, and you think of jobs like that, like bartenders, waitresses, just being self-employed in general. Sometimes you handle cash and things, like anything. I read something a while back. There's a big push for IRS agents to go after artists because they get paid cash for stuff.
Crazy.
It's like
absolutely absurd.
You're not going to get people to fucking
You're right. Even tips too, because
Yeah.
people don't report tips.
Yep.
Now they will be recorded.
Yeah, because you won't be able to give somebody a tip.
Nope.
You'll have to have a card reader.
Which most of the time we do that anyway, because if you pay by card and you put your tip, you write your tip on the receipt.
By
there's
the way,
cash tip.
anybody who does that to having worked pizza delivery in the past and whatnot, anyone who gives a tip, like writing it in rather than giving cash, is a total dick.
Well, if you don't have cash.
It's still, dude.
I never have cash. That's why I have to do that.
It costs the drivers typically more if you give them a tip, because it'll be traced. They'll get pulled more out of it than they make in their.
Oh, jeez.
Well, it's also hard to get paid too, because then you have to go back if it's done on a slip. Like I have friends, a tattoo artists, and if somebody leaves them a tip on a credit card, they pay for their appointment, everything on a credit card, and they say, oh well, there's a line on there for a tip, just like a restaurant.
Sure.
And if somebody says, well, I want to give my artist a $40 tip, well now that artist doesn't get that cash, just like you were saying, because I delivered Chinese food once for a
Goes
while.
to the house.
And it goes to the house, and then you getting the money from the house sometimes isn't quite so easy. And if you're somebody who's living, mouth to fist kind of situation, all of a sudden now you got to wait 3 days to collect your money.
Jeez.
Whereas opposed to like when I did Chinese food, the same thing. I was like, when people would give me a tip on the thing, I was like, man, you prick. That was my first thought. It's like, you ain't got $3 or $4 and ones laying around this mansion.
No, because most people don't carry cash like
for
that.
the $70 worth of Chinese food you're eating.
Oh, jeez. Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
But at the same time, you're totally right, because that's the way it's going.
Now I know I won't tip my drivers if I don't have cash.
Yeah, there's that too. Yeah, or just build in the tip in their price. That's what I would prefer. I mean, if you're gonna take the money anyway, it's going to the same source, and you care about tipping your employees, why don't you just divert the funds later of a certain
maybe
percentage?
Pay them better.
Yeah, it's like, so every time I have I'll take a Lyft or an Uber or whatever, just charge me an additional 15% more and pay them out 15% more, and then I don't have to worry about the tip. I had this discussion with somebody else too. Is like, if you're selling a service or a product, people generally appreciate. No, I'm going to say almost all people appreciate it when the one price they see is it. It's done. That's it. That's what I have to pay. No hidden costs, no processing fee, no sales tax, no shipping
you don't have
fee,
a club card?
handling fee, club card fee, membership fee. I mean, don't do that stuff.
When was the last time you
It's
tried to rent a car?
well, I do for work, but they pay for everything. Yeah, but all those, or pay your cell phone bill, dude. I mean, do you ever see all the fees that they add on to that cell phone bill?
Yeah.
What the heck is that stuff?
Get a SMUD bill. Look at a SMUD bill.
It's ridiculous, man. So now those types of bills, I expect that from. But when I go, pay for, I don't know what,
A pizza.
a pizza. Yeah, I mean, okay. If you want the tip, add it in there, man, and like that way I don't have to worry about
Just the tip.
Just the tip. Yeah, and only for a minute, mind you. Exactly.
Yeah, I think the biggest concern for me is like thinking about this and the lack of anonymity.
I mess up on that. I can't say that word either.
It's
Anonymity.
like taking steps towards like a Philip K. Dick novel or something. I mean, it's just the tracking that goes on behind it. I mean, with cash, you can, buy something you don't want, to be tracked on necessarily. And that just totally gets rid of that. That's out the door.
Well,
that's definitely my number one concern right off the bat.
Yeah, me too. Because you're thinking about buying something, like even if you say, okay, I'm going to buy something off Craigslist. You're buying a used car for $1,200. I got $1,200 cash. I go there with $1,200 cash. Now I got a little bit of power because I got cash in my hand. Maybe he'll take $1,000.
Oh, you're one of those guys on Craigslist.
Absolutely, dude.
Man, cash money, man.
Dude, that's
cash
what
money.
Craigslist is for.
That's what cash is for.
It depends on what you're selling on Craigslist.
Bargaining power.
You're right.
Everything.
You're right.
If you're paying asking price on Craigslist, you're doing it wrong.
Right? As a seller, that's what I'm thinking is so going that route. One of the things, playing off of the tracking thing, one of the things I got to add is I actually appreciate and use my card as much as I can.
Because you're one of those people.
Yeah, because it helps me track my personal finances.
But that's also because you have the choice to do so.
True.
And the option to.
Well, we all have the choice. I mean, we all have, I could pay cash too. I mean, anybody, but
I've spent a lot of money on weed for a great many years, and to have that tracked, I mean,
sure. Yeah.
That's just ridiculous. And then
for me, I enjoy it because
absolutely infringing on your rights.
Yeah. I guess
definitely
the privacy is the first thing it infringes on, because then it's like, well, then somebody can judge you on what you spend your money on.
Yep.
True. Well, I try to judge myself on what I spend my money on. That's why I'm interested.
This is
in
just lining up with the whole social credit system.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's you judging yourself. That's not an outside organization judging you by the
usage of your own money,
right, and giving you a score system.
Yeah, which is exactly what they're going to do with it. And they're doing it anyway, every time I do that. And I realize that, but it's like, then I don't get to, I mean, it's excellent for budgetary purposes. It's excellent to know where your money is going.
It's good to have the choice to do that.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, there's
but
also
not to be forced into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, and again, trying to have a positive spin on it. There is a lot of very positive things about this. I have a lot of elderly people in my life, parents and stuff like that are, they get a direct deposit from whatever their Social Security, or my stepdad has a pension, those sort of things, and they don't really touch cash very often. They go on a computer and do things, and it makes their life safer and easier because they're not physically going to a bank all the time. They're not walking around with handfuls of cash if something were to happen. And there's tons of safety issues that are amazing, and there's the easeability, and that's what they're selling this on. I think it's one of those ideas that, like, if we make it easy for you and make it super convenient, you're going to use it because you're lazy.
Yeah.
It's a trap.
It's a trap.
And I think what I took that angle kind of wrong at the beginning. And Joe said it more clearly, that it's it's the fact that we have the choice as opposed to it being forced upon us in this cashless society thing. They're the countries that are moving to it are literally trying to force people. Like, we don't do cash anymore, period.
Yeah.
That is no longer an option for you. But us having the option, that's the key, because some things I do want to only sell or buy in cash.
Hell yeah, and it'll bleed into other facets of life as well, because let's say you want life insurance.
Wow.
Well, okay, they're going to look at your spending. They'll see what you do, where you go. They'll plug all of your spending into
because it's
an
public
equation.
Information now.
It'll plug into an equation.
Risk analysis.
They'll see risk analysis. They'll see where you're buying your food.
Yeah.
They'll judge you from that. You'll pay extra.
Yeah, that is social credit system stuff, like Glenn said. Yeah, that's exactly what they would use it for. Yeah, if you guys haven't looked into that social credit system stuff, do so, because that's
another episode. For
sure.
We
will do an episode on that. But
teaser.
Don't wait for us. Go out there and check that out. China has already implemented it in a voluntary format right now, but that's only for a couple of years. Then it will be mandatory for them, and it will.
2020 is mandatory.
2020, and it will come here, and the whole world is watching that right now, just to see how it's going to go and how it's going to play out, and how they're going to. How they're going to implement it and all of that. I wanted to go back to the hurting the black market thing. There was there was a comment something I wanted to comment on that. It sounds almost like that. Okay, if we go cashless, we'll hurt the black market, the underground market, the sex trafficking,
the terrorists,
all the bad,
drugs,
all the bad things that we
things.
want to stop. Like, of course, I don't want sex trafficking going on, right? So if I eliminate their funding, but then hopefully it'll go. Yeah, but that sounds exactly like
the war on drugs.
Yeah, like the war on drugs and the war on guns. If you if you make guns illegal, if you make drugs illegal, it'll go away. No, the people who do those things are the criminals. So criminals don't follow new laws that you pass. All you do is end up hurting the law-abiding citizens.
That would be like sales etiquette, basically, to sell this.
Yes, and I could see them doing that. And what, you're okay with sex trafficking? Don't you want to hurt the sex traffickers? Of course I don't want
babies.
Yeah,
save the babies.
Yeah, exactly. Of course
don't
I don't
you love
want,
babies?
Yeah, exactly. Of course I don't want them doing that. But that's a hell of a way to sell it to us,
Right.
And who's going to say no to that?
The rhetoric.
But I can totally see them doing that. And
Propaganda.
That's it, and it sounds just like guns and drugs all over again.
Just find some sweet old lady like Nancy Reagan.
Yep, and I wonder, and I wonder if it'll hit society. And to this, I'm only speaking to our country. I wonder if it'll hit our population at an angle that most people have never thought of before. Everybody's thought of drugs to some degree.
I think a lot of people that would say, in the general aspect, if you say, hey, would you be okay with a cashless society? I think people would be like, well, I do all my online banking, I do this, I pay with card. Yeah, it'd absolutely be it.
Yeah,
but they don't think about exactly what Joe was bringing up.
Depends on the people.
Well,
what about all the people who's personal business, people who growers? Come on, who wants to be reporting that?
Yeah, and I think that's got to be the push behind it, is to collect taxes, to be able to be more in control of them, making more money off of everything we do, more control
and insight. It's no different than ad tracking, right? And all of our social media and so you can what you looked on Amazon, they want to pop up on your Facebook account. And,
I was just thinking something the other day, and I had it popped up.
Yeah. Plus, all these companies that track like your locations on your cell phone. Google, I know, takes uploads of where you're at, what speed you're traveling at. Then once they have your wallet, well, now they've got like everything about you. Not only do they know where you're traveling, where you're at, where your daily habits, they've got your spending habits as well. That's a complete picture.
Yep.
Yeah, and for me, I think that once that control is moved into their hands, it would be super easy to leverage that against us as a people. Oh, you guys are out there protesting? Well, you're suspended from your account for the next 30 days.
This just knock your social credit score down a little bit.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. There you go. Yeah, your credit score, just every time you're out, if you're out picketing or protesting, 50 points off your credit score.
Yep.
Yeah, I know a lot of people who are active in Black Lives Matter protests. Mm-hmm. That's against
it's anti-establishment.
Right.
Yep.
So that's just ripe for the picking in that regard.
Yeah, new laws starting 2020. Anti-establishment. If you're convicted of one time, it's 25 points on your credit score.
Yep.
Second time, 50.
Yep.
That's it's a new way of enslaving the masses.
Yeah,
because you control them
mathematically.
Yeah,
because you have all the data
economically controlled.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. That's.
It's hard to find positives in that. For me when I look at that like that.
Oh, great! I don't have to carry a wallet anymore. It's all on my phone.
Oh
Yay.
yeah.
Apple.
I'm not going to get a Hep C because I'm carrying a $20 bill.
Yeah.
Thank you, Apple, for
I
saving
think I'll
me.
take my chances.
That makes me think I just
Yeah.
went to the bank today and just deposited some cash, right? 'Cause
Did you wear rubber gloves when you touch the money?
I actually, well, that was what was kind of funny is I don't really like carrying cash, so I usually deposit in the bank when I get it. So I can relate to the other side of this kind of, right? So I hand them this. It was a stack of bills or whatever, and there happened to be like I think $10 in ones in it, right? And she's sitting there counting it out, and I did not count it out. I usually just give it to them and you deal with it or whatever. I'm like, I don't need to count it out. You're going to count it out. So she's counting it out, and 3 of the bills are stuck so bad she has to peel them apart from each other. I'm like, oh man, that's nasty. I'm kind of glad I didn't touch that.
Were they stuck because they were dirty, or were they stuck because they were fresh? Because I know when
They're not fresh. They were dirty. They were
I love
old.
when I go to the ATM and get a stack of 20s, and they're all just so crisp.
Oh,
you
yeah.
have to literally like peel them apart, you know, because they're just hot off the press.
These were nasty. There was some nasty stuff.
These sounded
on
more
them.
like stripper sweat.
Like stripper ones,
Oh,
Ben? Were they
man.
stripper ones?
It's like when you see
That's
that.
what he had left over from the night before. That's what he left out of the story.
When you see that very unattractive chick that pulls out her cash from her bra, and you're like, oh.
Oh, great. That's my
man.
favorite. I remember working in retail. I was like,
No.
yes, thank you. Pull out some tweezers. You're just like grab them with tweezers.
To pay
shake it off and then
to
put it
pay-
in the till.
yeah, to pay for her douche kit and her three thongs for $10. Off the
Her
oh,
STD
man.
testing kit.
Oh, gosh, that's just
Ward-
no good.
You guys are
Ointment.
painting an awesome picture right now.
Yeah, it's because I used to see it. So okay, obviously we need as a society, or many people need, some form of untraceable currency, and I think
Bitcoin.
I think that's where I'm heading with this. I think that. I don't know that it's the only reason this move towards cashless society is the only reason this stuff came about, but I think it's definitely playing a role in it. Why so many people are moving towards this cryptocurrency method of spending money.
I think, e-commerce has made the world into a global marketplace, and that need for, what's that word?
Anonymity.
Anonymity.
Every time I need to say that word, I'm going to point to
Glenn.
Glenn.
That need for
Oh, it didn't work. He wasn't ready.
so that bred cryptocurrencies.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, and also that a lot of people in the black market in particular, and even people who just want privacy, period. There are people out there who use cryptocurrency just for the privacy sake.
The idea that it's all funding sex trafficking, they just paint a nasty picture
That's propaganda.
on it because it's exactly.
Yeah. Obviously, there are people who are not doing bad things that want that. Well, as a matter of fact,
just some basic human privacy.
One of the things that I read that was very interesting is for political uprising, where people are speaking out against government and, overbearing governments, basically, they use cryptocurrencies as well to fund that and trade funds.
Yeah.
And
there are companies that sell online that accept Bitcoin too. So there are companies that are trying to promote it and support that system out there.
So it's like a black market secondary currency for the world, and that's what's going to have to happen if we move to a cashless society. There's going to be the cashless society that they tax you on and they control, and there's going to be a secondary of some sort. There has to be.
No, absolutely. So there's another angle that I wanted to tie that cryptocurrency thing into. One of the biggest fears, I guess, that I read about with this is what happens. So if you go to a cashless society, then obviously all of the currency is tracked by computers, servers, whatever. It's all digital. It's controlled by computers or maintained.
Time to take down the network.
So when they take down the network, or they take down a main server, or they take down all the server farms. Let's say if it was some sort of a massively coordinated event and they've successfully did that.
A sun spur or something.
What the heck happens when all of our money doesn't exist anymore? Now, to that effect, one of the things that I like, one of the things that I think is good about cryptocurrency is that everybody who uses it keeps that log of all transactions that have happened. So you have it's redundancy.
But isn't that log digital?
True, but so let's say a major bank gets taken out and all their stuff is wiped out. Let's say that somebody could successfully do that. I mean, they have so much redundancy built in their systems, and it'd be really difficult. But let's say that somebody did that. All of a sudden, we're freaking out. That was all my money. But if you're using a system like today's cryptocurrency systems, Joe Schmo down the street just made a transaction, has the latest version of all the transactions that have happened for Bitcoin. So he's got a copy of all your transactions and how much money you've got. So does the other person over here. And they're not going to attack unless they have some sort of a virus that hops to all those cryptocurrency users, if they did something like that. But it's potential that we could have copies that are managed by us of our transactions and how much money we have in our digital currency, whereas a banking system company, they're not going to give us any of that control or power information. But if they get wiped out, then there goes everything. So I don't know if how true that is, or how you have to really, if you guys ever get bored out there, I mean really bored, and you have some time to read it very slowly and make sure you grasp all the concepts there. Learning about how cryptocurrency actually works with their algorithms for the security and the redundancy that's built into it. It is some amazingly smart technology or programming. The guys who put that original Bitcoin together, they were not dumb at all. They really thought out a very
detailed,
thorough and detailed approach to keeping things anonymous, keeping private, and keeping record keeping of and not record keeping in the sense that you can really go back and look at it, but record keeping in the sense that this is who has what.
They don't know who those people are, do they?
Supposedly no, but since the beginning, no. However, supposedly now I have heard rumors, and who knows if it's just government trying to scare people or whatever, that they've been able to crack that and trace back to prove who had what. I don't know. I've heard both ways, and I haven't looked far enough into it to find out if that's true or if that's just some.
I doubt it.
I mean, yeah. And then on top of that, it's just like once things become digital, it's just like hacking anything else. The hacker breaks in, the owner beefs up security. Then they kick the hacker. The hacker can't get in. He works more harder and harder, or he or she brings some more people in. They break in. Then they fix the hole, and then they can't get back in. And then they find another hole. And it's just back and forth all day long, forever.
It's like me stopping the homeless from getting in the gate over here.
That's it.
Start digging a hole somewhere else.
Yeah,
we'll climb over this time.
It's like stopping the pigeons living in your
right.
area, in your roof or whatever. I mean, as long as they got food, they're going to keep coming back. You're never going to stop them. So that's an interesting aspect of that cryptocurrency approach that
I don't know enough about the cryptocurrency and the Bitcoin thing.
Eventually we'll do an episode on that because there's a lot to talk about there.
Well, for me, I think when I think of say the U.S. currency, as we have started, it was supposed to be based on the gold system.
Mm-hmm.
We had something to back up a bill.
Yeah, 1852 I think was the first paper. I had that in an article. Was it first bills that they started printing?
Who started printing?
U.S.
U.S. Like the Federal Reserve, or
I don't know. The U.S. government didn't issue banknotes until 1862, is what this particular article said, and I don't know who was doing it. Was there a mint back then, or I don't know.
Well,
who was creating those
I don't know
banknotes.
that. I don't know that much about that one.
I don't know the history of that. Yeah.
But I think as the American population, at least for me and most people I know, we sort of grew up with the ideology that the dollar has something backing it up.
Cash is king.
A gold, and that's kind of what it was before. Obviously, that is not true anymore. They were just printing things crazy for quite a long time. And so, we have this value system that really could be cracked in any direction. It could all of a sudden your dollar bill could be worth $80, or all of a sudden your dollar bill could be worth $0.
Yeah.
And we just live on this finite line of reality, and it's already an issue. And I think if it goes to some digital cashless thing, I don't know. I feel like it's even more fragile in general. And I mean, and that's going back to that control thing again. All of a sudden somebody says, oh, well, we didn't get the digital, copy of your mortgage payment this month. So, you're out. We're throwing you out. We're evicting you. We're repossessing your house. So all these different things, and they have all this control. And I've dealt with credit card companies for years that misused their information, misused my information, didn't get things appropriate as far as like billing cycles or payments, and just all kinds of crazy mistakes that go on all the time. So for me, it seems really crazy to think that we can sell the idea that just like, the computer or whatever we're going to start calling things controls everything that we do with our money, our spending. And again, as soon as I think about it, Joe and I both I think we're on the same page on this. It's just the way that they can judge you and
control you,
you and criminalize you for nothing.
Yeah. I think they should call it the ether, though. So your money's just out in the ether.
Yeah, it's not really real.
But that's one of the things.
You'll never see it. You'll never touch it. You don't need to. Don't worry about that. Just spend it.
It truly just becomes an imaginary concept at that point.
And okay, so playing off
but
of that.
But cash is like that already. It's already an imaginary.
Yeah, sure.
Right.
Playing off of that, it's getting more so like that. So stepping away from the digital currency thing, I read another interesting fact about the UK. You playing off what you said, Thomas, about that they've convinced the people that there's value in this piece of paper and that there's value in these coins that actually have no value anymore for the materials that they're made of. The UK, and I could look up the dates or whatever, but they have already started producing polymer currency already in circulation.
That's to combat copying it, right?
It's made of plastic. I don't know.
It's because there's like transparent like holograms and stuff in their money, so that it's like impossible to copyright almost. Well, quote unquote impossible. And we're already kind of doing that now
with our paper money. Yeah,
the new hundreds especially.
Stop counterfeiting and
This particular article took it on the angle of, well, in some areas there are such massive hoarding of cash that they are running out of cash in circulation and need more.
Well,
So in the UK chose to, and the way this article worded it or kind of forced that angle, they have chosen to, rather than produce a metal currency or paper currency, they have chosen to switch it to a plastic currency. And right now it's like 5, 10s, 15s or something, and then in the next 5 years or something, it's going to come out as 20s, and I don't know what their increments are over there. But
that's interesting that you bring that up, because I've heard of I don't know if it's just an idea or if it's just a conspiracy theory, but markers in bills, and then those markers can be detected by, let's say, dishes, like a radio dish. You know how they used to do audible, point the dish, and you can, I don't know if that's still a thing, you can use an audible bug, point the dish to detect. Well, now you can find out where large collections of those strips in the bills are housed.
Yeah, and that's one, and I'm totally with you on that one. And to make that to another jump of that conversation is, I know a lot of people who save cash and will only save older bills without the strips.
Older bills, yeah.
And that's exactly the thing. And that came out when those strips started coming out. I remember a lot of people, and they all get lumped into conspiracy theorists now, but that was one of the things about that, was that the government could find if somebody buried money or currency, because people have been burying money forever.
Got a trap house, and you're running tons of bills through there.
Or they can drive down the street, just like they can photograph your license plate to see if you got a ticket. They can also, scan your house to see how much cash you have on hand. Talk about an invasion of privacy with the digital world.
I'm sure we're there already.
I'm sure we are too.
Yeah, so what's the concept behind hoarding cash? That I didn't get.
Dude, to trust the banks. Like who,
if you don't trust
especially after look at the housing market, the housing drop that we went through here. And they're just selling us crap and then making money off of it. I mean, who wants to put their trust in that? It's a very old concept.
If you convert all your money, your cash, to numbers in a banking system, and something goes bad with the economy, and all of that money becomes nothing because it has no value, what value does your cash that you've hoarded have?
Well, it's only going to have value if people perceive it with value, just like bullets. When crap hits the fan and all this economy doesn't matter anymore, what's going to matter is lead, brass. Well, those are going to be
that's what I'm saying. What
thing,
value is the paper currency going to have? And that's so.
But I think it depends on the people. It doesn't have any value. I mean, if the economy goes to crap and everything falls apart, and they're like, oh, well, everybody's got money, cash.
Well, that'll only last you for a little while until the people realize, well, guess what? Our economy's tanked, and there's
that's what I'm saying. Unless the people are willing to or believe that or give, it's going to be up to the people.
That'll last a little while, but I mean, at some point, people are going to be like, that stuff's not worth anything anymore, so we don't barter with that anymore. So that's what
you're talking about, like a total economic collapse.
Well, I don't understand. I don't understand.
Talking about Walking Dead days.
Right? I don't understand what the drive would be to hoard cash anyway.
Because you don't trust the bank. Exactly. I mean, look at Europe. There's been several things in Europe. Greece has had a problem with it. I mean, all kinds of countries in Europe, especially Eastern Europe, have had problems with. All of a sudden, they go to the bank, and the bank's just not there. The bank's done. Everything fell apart. They're shut down. That happened in Greece multiple times in the last 10 years. So people who had their life savings in that bank, that something went, whatever happened. They go there and they're like, oh, I have no money now. I've been saving money my entire life, putting it into a 401k or funds or whatever, and I've been saving it through your bank, and all of a sudden you're gone, and all of my entire life savings of $600,000, whatever I've saved through the whole experience of me being alive is now gone because it was digital and something went wrong.
Okay, and
so
these would be banks that don't have any insurance or whatever.
Well, I don't know. I would think the national banks in Greece had all that.
I don't know how they do it, but I mean, if you're going through an FDIC insured bank, I mean, supposedly our cash is all insured
Yeah, right.
up to a certain amount.
Yeah, sure it is.
I don't know.
Try collecting on that.
Yeah, that could be the case.
I mean, it's a really good sticker to put on the side of a window at a bank.
That's true.
That's all it is.
That's true. Yeah, it's interesting to think about. Yeah, okay, so I guess that would be one angle where the cash would be hoarding cash would be. I would feel vulnerable hoarding cash because again,
absolutely.
We're talking about you're burying in the backyard. I mean, maybe somebody knows how to find it, goes out there and takes all your money. You know, they're not going to go into a bank and take it. The bank might take it.
That's why you just keep it under your mattress.
Yeah.
But they don't have to go into a bank and take it. They just go on. They just hack it. They just hack through and process it. And they go. And
so I feel like the concern.
I feel like anything digital and anything computer controlled is able to be hacked. Somebody designed it. Somebody can take it apart.
And I feel like anywhere I could hide it, somebody could come and take it.
But they'd have to deal with you directly.
Hopefully, I'm there.
And and
10 hours a day, I'm not there.
Maybe you just need to up your hiding game.
There you go.
Right?
Yeah, gotta come up with some better way to hide my cash.
Get a maid that hangs out during the day with a gun.
Nice. The guns are
guard dog.
Yeah.
Security. You got security cameras? Come on. Should have like 9 pointed to the pile of money.
So you stash your cash under your dog's pillow.
Right.
You got a very big dog and hope they don't just shoot him. Yeah, I mean, it's a weird concept, and I've never really fully understood the cash hoarding stuff. But
yeah, I understand it. I think because I came from a generation of people who, like my parents always stashed cash, rainy day fund.
Stash cash.
Totally.
I mean, I thought that was pretty normal, to be honest.
Absolutely.
Because I think the philosophy to me is if I put all my money in a bank, all my eggs are in one basket.
But if you pile it all in somewhere in your house, all your eggs in one basket.
But they aren't. There's some here, some there, some's in the bank.
I mean,
maybe it's at multiple locations.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I don't know the speed in which anything can put a hold on your bank account, though. I don't want.
That's instantaneous.
It's right,
Yeah.
and to think that can happen and not have something on hand to use to survive.
Absolutely. And I've had friends that's happened to. I had a buddy whose ATM card got locked up and something to do some fraud thing. And this was maybe 15 years ago and things weren't as smooth, I guess, as they are today.
Yeah.
They locked down his account. He had no cash. Everything he had was in that account. He couldn't access it.
I've been drunk and
2
typed in my
weeks.
password wrong 3 times and got my ATM card locked out. So, yeah. And then I'm like, dude, I got no money for the rest of the night.
Yeah, and then if you don't have credit cards.
Yep.
Yeah. And just think about that. So think about, say they shut your card down. You're like, oh, okay, man, I'm on the other side of town. I better get an Uber. Well, you can't get an Uber anymore because your card just got declined.
Yep.
And you can't give them cash.
Yep. Yeah.
See what I mean?
Well,
See how instantaneous this can take effect?
Yeah, just yesterday, my bank put a freeze on my card because I made an online purchase and I don't usually make online purchases, so it flagged it as.
You got to fix that, dog.
Yeah,
buy some shit online,
dude. You know how
Wait,
inept
you're
I
telling me
am.
how untrustworthy it is now.
No, but my bank put a freeze on the account
Yeah.
because it thought it was
Odd behavior or whatever. Yeah.
and I had to go through a thing to get my card reactivated.
And that's your only access to your money.
Right.
Unless you go into a bank during banking hours, which are what, I think 11:15 to 11:20 now.
If you're working, that's when they're open. And you can't make it,
Right.
that's when they're open, yes. This makes me think of something, too, with the online purchasing. I heard, and I'm pretty sure it was true. I mean, Joe, maybe you remember hearing about it. There was a lady who her story was that she had scrimped and saved up all this cash and wanted to go. All she wanted to do was go into Apple and buy an iPad. I don't know. It sounds kind of fishy to me because somebody scrimping and saving every penny to go buy a $600 device is probably not somebody who should be owning a $600 device. But okay, fine. Let's say that she didn't do
The
it
heart
just
wants the heart
yeah.
wants.
Let's say she didn't do it just to get on TV and try and get her 15 minutes of fame off of it. But she went into the Apple store and tried to pay cash for an iPad, and they said, "Sorry, we don't. You see any cash registers in here? We don't accept cash." So can't help you. And
Is that true? That sounds like bullshit.
That's
Is that true?
what I heard. They do not accept cash, so that's
I
true.
bought my iPad with cash
In a store?
at an Apple store.
An Apple store? You're kidding.
In Boise.
What's $600 though?
I thought they didn't accept cash. Period.
Their register was built into that tabletop that all of the devices are displayed on. There's a flat panel that popped out and it was a register.
You're kidding.
No joke.
I can't
So maybe
imagine.
that story was not true then.
I can't imagine Apple turning away
Money?
That sounds like
penny.
shenanigans.
Okay, maybe it was. So okay, that. Yeah, well, there you go. Then never mind. But I had heard that story, and I was like, "Wait a minute!" And then I had never tried to pay cash at Apple, so I was thinking, "Oh, they don't have registers, but maybe they have them hidden, like they hide all their other,
See, just another.
like they hide their evil ways."
Yeah, I can't speak whether it was just that one store, but
Yeah. Okay.
But see, if you were in a cashless society, that's
that
how
wouldn't
it would
be.
be.
Yeah. Well, she wouldn't have been able to save the cash anyway. So, but yes, you're right. It's just kind of like, wow, that would eliminate a lot of ways to,
Yeah. But the thing that annoys me the most about that thought of that in a cashless society is the bank already charges you as much as they possibly can for every transaction, every account, everything you do. Imagine how much control they're going to have with their rates.
That was just something I was just going to say about what would the charges be?
Every single transaction, they'd be pulling pennies out of it. It's giving somebody that doesn't need any more to do with my money than they already have.
Yeah. If I owe Glenn $20, they're going to take 5 cents out of it or whatever they're going to take.
Glenn's going to say, "Give me $25 because I got a $5 fee for the transaction." Exactly.
Yes. Yeah. Unless
or just send it friends and family.
Yeah, via PayPal. Yeah. So then that was something. What this particular one of this articles had mentioned was that in order to make people adopt that more, they're going to have to make it a free service. And I wanted to look more into that.
Oh, it'll be at free first.
Yeah. I wanted
first hit's always free.
That's right. Or to a certain point, like you can transfer up to $1,000, then we want a fee after that. Yeah. I wanted to look more into that Swish app that they use in Sweden to see if that particular app, charge any service fees or whatever for any of the stuff you can do with it. But I didn't get a chance. I ran out of time before I got a chance to get into that.
There's got to be a fees. I mean, they're employing people to do something.
Unless it's government funded. Oh. So if it's a government funded entity, then
then you're still paying for it because your taxes.
Yeah, there you go. So you pay, and I think they pay really high taxes over there too. I believe because their education system's included.
Yeah, their government actually does things for them.
Yeah, spends their money wisely with their interest in it. Yeah,
with the future interest of humanity.
Yeah, exactly. I just found that fact here too. It says the UK is midway through a program of introducing brand new polymer banknotes. It's the £5 and £10 versions that are already in circulation, with the new £20 banknote, polymer banknote is scheduled to be launched in 2020.
I got to check these out.
I want to go look. I didn't have a chance to
I mean, it's got to be something that's either implanted with some sort of chip or some sort of reader, like something that gives off some sort of signal. I don't know.
Some sort of anti-counterfeit.
Yeah, but I think that would be the biggest thing is the counterfeit.
And there's probably some tracking thing built into it as well.
That's true too. Because they can track everywhere you go constantly.
Sure,
we track that £5.
And just like those RFID tags that exist in items, so you don't steal them, that set off the beeper or whatever. It's really, really, really easy to implement that same technology with a serial number that it throws out, or a long number that it throws out, so that every single one of those currencies is serialized, and when it passes over a register or passes over whatever, they have internet connected RFID tag readers that read every single coin, and that gets sent directly back to the government so that they know exactly where their money is. That's totally easy to do.
Wow.
They don't require power. Wow. It is literally powers within the field in the register, just like the tags on things, merchandise, so you don't steal it.
So they can track that coin.
They can track that.
They track
coin.
the history of that coin.
For all I know, they can do that with our paper currency here. I don't know.
I think that's a lot. I think there's a lot more to our current U.S. currency paper money than we know.
Probably,
sure.
Yeah.
Especially with the magnetic strip
those
thing.
new bills, though. Yeah.
They're crazy looking.
They're very shiny.
Yeah,
like literally, they reflect light.
Pretty soon they're going to have like a Chinese president on them.
Well, they own us already, so.
I wonder if Trump will get his own bill one day.
Oh God, dude, that would be so funny.
Screaming Trump face.
It should be a $3 bill because that'd just be retarded.
Nice. Bring back the $2 bill.
They still have a $2
bill.
No, keep it on the 3.
Do.
Are they still in circulation though?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Being printed.
Yes. I can go to the bank and get
I'm sorry. I thought they were actually out of print now. Okay. Yeah. I haven't seen one in years.
They're not
I have
common.
some.
Trump's would be a $1.09.
It'd be an off angle or an off.
That's definitely an off angle, but an odd number,
not an integer or whatever. Yeah, so I was trying to think of what the heck's that word when it's a decimal or a fraction.
Nonsense is the
nonsense.
word.
Yes, it would be a nonsense bill. Yes, used to pay for a wall. So yeah, so we talked about the transactions that have to be. There was another point here that they had made. One of these articles made a list out. I don't know why the guy did it exactly, but he put together a list of what he thought would be required in order to build a society that didn't have cash. And one of the things that he mentioned here that I wanted to bring up, because Thomas had actually brought up before we started recording, one of his points was literacy among the society for managing digital currency. And Thomas had mentioned a fact that something that pretty much all of us deal with at some point. Your parents or your grandparents are elderly. And the way and when we get old, when we become elderly, we don't keep up with all the latest crap that's coming out.
Can't see so good.
I can even if you have no physical ailments, it's just too damn much. Dude, I can barely keep up with all the crap that is in this world today. There's tons of stuff. So you'd have the problem of keeping the elderly educated, both for their own safety so they don't get ripped off digitally, but also how to function within this new digital cashless world. And that's a serious endeavor. I mean, I don't know if you've ever tried to teach your grandma how to use a computer,
or the VCR,
or change the clock on the VCR. He said VCR.
Right? I think the answer to that would be, you want to make an omelet, you got to break a few eggs.
Yeah.
Well, and I think too is that we've talked about this before, where there's, no matter what you introduce into a society, there's a period,
learning curve
period.
Mm-hmm.
So
growing pains.
Yeah, and so it's like, okay, well, these people that don't fit in, nobody cares anymore, because really that's how we treat elderly.
Yes.
In a generation, they'll be gone.
They're not contributing anymore. Who cares what they think?
Yep.
And that's how we get it pushed. But the thing is, we retrain the next generation, and the next generation grows up knowing obsolete technology, because the next generation is going to, it's just this weird cycle. And so I don't think that problem's ever going to go away, where elderly or people in that position are going to have a hard time communicating with how we, the righteous now community society, is doing things. And so that's one is the biggest concern for me, I thought, because my parents are both getting older, and I'm having a lot of issues in dealing with them. And luckily right now they're both mentally still there, they're just physically having lots of problems. But my grandmother wasn't, and we had lots of issues trying to figure out things with that. And I don't know. I feel like, to me, that's a huge issue. A lot of the stuff in Sweden, a lot of the negatives that they're getting in Sweden are based on the elderly and how they're getting sort of like pushed away and being excluded from things again, like socially excluded.
Yeah, definitely. Basically, the modernization of the world passes by, and
you don't know how to do it. We don't need you. Why don't you just move over?
Yeah,
that's not a way to treat people.
Yeah. I see great examples of that every time I go into the Apple store, and I see people who, and not
don't
necessarily
understand the Apple language,
just who don't understand how to use a phone, how to use technology, period.
Yeah.
And they're in there buying these things. They have money, they can afford it, but they just, how do you make a call, or how do you, surf the internet with the iPad?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, oh man, dude, that sucks. That's a lot to learn. And you see these things, and they see these things in the TV shows. They see their grandchildren have it, or their best friend has it, even if they're not elderly. Just some people are just not technology inclined, or never got into it in the first place.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, that's really cool. I want to go get one of those. And I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. Everybody's got one. You want one? Okay, you go get one. And what the hell is this thing? How do you work this thing?
Yeah.
And they're in there asking the most basic questions. It's like, people who are asking those kind of questions shouldn't even own it, or shouldn't, I mean, I don't know, should have learned a little more.
You're witnessing the learning curve.
Yeah, that could be too. Maybe it's wrong to say they shouldn't own it, but maybe done a little more research before they bought into something.
But I think what you're saying right now is exactly the example of what I'm trying to say. You're socially excluding them because they don't fit into what you think.
Yeah.
Plus, I love people like that. Those are the people you can go to a bar and sit next to and have a conversation.
Have a conversation with. Yeah,
absolutely.
That's true. They're not sitting there staring at their phone.
They're not updating their Instagram status while you're talking about life
or taking selfies.
Oh, dude, I hate the selfie. That's one thing that blows me away, is watching young girls take selfies, and like, I'm not even gonna get into that. That's just like, wow.
That's a podcast for another time.
I know. It's just, how could
Drunk
you do
Girls
that?
and Selfies, podcast number 27.
How could you look at yourself so long? Like, I don't want.
I hide from mirrors.
Yeah, I don't exactly. I don't want to take pictures of myself.
I know I'm dirty. Shut up.
Yeah. What do you guys think about using prepaid credit cards, or prepaid those, refillable Visa things instead of a credit card?
Like burner cell phones?
Yeah, exactly. Burner credit cards.
I can see why you'd want one, I guess. That they have their uses. Mm-hmm. They're expensive.
Yeah, I tried one, and it wanted my social security number. And I was like, no, that's the whole damn point. What do you want my social security number for? The whole point of me having a refillable Visa, I can't remember who the company was, but yeah, they wanted a social so that I could.
Were you connecting it to anything other than their service? Because that's how I perceive them. Because you see those commercials at 3 o'clock in the morning constantly, and there's all kinds of crazy fees that they're not really advertising, but
Yeah.
it should be its own entity where you just go put money into it somehow. But if you're going to digitally put money into it, now you have to link it to something else.
Yeah, I mean, and what are you going to link it to? Your bank? Well, your bank got your social security number. What are you? I mean, unless there's some sort of an ATM machine looking thing where you scan and then you can put cash into.
But we're a cashless society.
I haven't seen that. Well,
But you can buy those cards at like supermarkets.
preloaded. Yeah, so I think
with cash.
Yeah, so I think what happened was maybe it was. See, I can't remember. It was a while ago when I did that, but maybe it was I tried to create an online account to check my balance of that card.
Oh, okay.
And then they wanted information from me, including my social address, name, phone number, all that crap. Basically, like I was setting up a normal card.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and maybe with their online setup, it was so that I could refill it online, from my checking account or whatever. But obviously, that totally.
I mean, how else are you going to fill up the cash on the thing other than a credit card or
because I
throw
don't
it away and pick up another one at the supermarket.
Yeah, because I don't think you can go to the supermarket and refill them there, and I don't know of any like ATM looking kiosk things that allow you to like I said, insert cash, even though they totally.
Pretty sure those just go in the garbage when you're done with them.
Yeah, I think they do, but then they're supposed to be refillable. I mean, what's they're supposed to be refillable.
Well, maybe you can take it back to the store and give him cash.
So I didn't know if you can do that,
I
but
don't
that would be ideal. Or like I said, like a kiosk unit thing that would let you do that. Anyway, I only played with them once, and I don't even remember why I was playing with it. But yeah,
you don't even remember why you were playing with it.
Yeah. In fact,
and on that note,
yes, that's it. We're out of here now. All right, everyone. Thank you for listening. We really are going to end it there because I can't think of anything better. We'll see you next time. Show notes and other info can be found at our website, greatdistraction.com. The Great Distraction is listed in iTunes, and we greatly appreciate it when our listeners take the time to look us up and leave us a 5-star rating and review. That helps our show grow and motivates us to continue producing content. If you'd like to get in contact with us, you can do so using the email address, greatdistractionpodcast@gmail.com, or via our website. We're always interested in hearing any thoughts, comments, or questions from our listeners. Keeping up on the latest from us can be done in several different ways. You can add us to your favorite RSS feed tracker. The link is available on our website or in iTunes. Or you can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Just search for Great Distraction, one word, no space. As always, thank you for listening, and thank you for all the support.